Monarchia, a city so known by name and its history, but not its history of its view and the beauty of the city, from streets, buildings, and massive structures that were built to shine under the galactic star of their world. Monarchia was a capital city of the planet Kur, the place of divinity, faith, and prosperity, like any other worlds who were under the compliance by the word-bearers and their primarch, Lord Aurelian, while they conquered the stars for the Great Crusade. But with this city, it wasn't just an ordinary city to Lord Gar. It was meant to be his perfect project for the perfect city, as a tribute for the God Emperor and to his glorious Imperium, but mainly for the Emperor, of course. When the Emperor found out about Lord Gar was praising him as a god, which went against the Imperial truth, and not progressing to conquer planets in the galaxy as fast as other legions have been doing pretty well. Understandably for the Emperor, he was furious about this, and he gathered Rubuk Gilliman with his Ultramarines and Makodor the Sigillite, and when they arrived to Monarchia, everything changed for the Word-Bearers, and soon the Imperium would change as well, evidently shown on the current events of the 42nd millennium. Greetings brothers, I am Nelop and welcome to another 30k video, and today we'll be talking about the perfect city and its consequences for the Imperium in the later years in before the Horus Heresy. Of course there were consequences after the Horus Heresy, but we'll be mainly focusing the startup of the first crack for the Word Bearers, or as I call it with my made up sentence, the black powder in the barrel. If you are new to 40k and you're wondering, what is Monarchia I speak of, and who are the Word Bearers? Well, to give you a general context of what Monarchia and the Word-Bearers are, we're gonna have to start when the Emperor sends these Space Marines for conquest into the galaxy, but also recollecting his Primarchs. After the unification of Terra, the Emperor starts his plans for the galaxy for the purposes I mentioned before. The Word-Bearers' previous name were the Imperial Heralds, and their role in the way is similar to the Iterators, where they're able to debate and convince with the skill of words to the compliant worlds to join their cause for the Imperium. This trait for the Word-Bearers is very useful to them since they don't need weapons, titans, or armies to win a war, when they can use their words or their version of truth to get into the heart of the matter. Very useful indeed, but very dangerous. The difference with this legion is before meeting their Primarch, the Imperial Heralds, as it was their previous name, they would teach about the Imperial truth, where there were no gods, spirits, or any spiritual entities that exist, and once the legion met their Primarch, Lord Aurelian, the Word-Bearers would learn about Lorgar's teachings about faith, showing the Emperor as a divine being, more like a god to be exact, and therefore they became zealots and the most loyal subjects than any other legions. Loyal. And so, when the Word-Bearers went to the galaxy with their Primarch for the Great Crusade, every planet that went into compliance under the Imperium's banner, the Word-Bearers would start everything from scratch by burning down anything that had to do with any previous religious beliefs from churches, monasteries, and any other held information about this religion. Once that step is complete, they will start to convert the citizens of the planets into worshippers of the Emperor. And of course, for those who went against the Word-Bearers, they will be likely to be killed by them. With this conversion though, on a single planet took a lot of time and process to get it done, like any other worlds that went compliant from the Word-Bearers for the Great Crusade. Now, to Monarchia. Like any other worlds, Kur was one of the planets complied from the Word-Bearers on the 30th millennium. and Lord Aurelian planned to make the capital city of Kur named Monarchia. The plan was it was going to be the perfect city of religious devotion with lots of cathedrals and monuments that was dedicated for the worship of the emperor as a god of humanity. So pretty much compared to any other worlds or cities to Monarchia that was compliant from the word bearers, this city specifically, it was meant to be the main city of faith, to put it simply. Back to when the emperor went to Monarchia. At this time, Monarchia was on a normal peaceful day. The birds are singing, the city is crowded, the bells are ringing, and the citizens giving their daily prayer to the only God, the God Emperor of mankind. Time has passed by, and on the horizon of the sky of the world, they saw Astartes that were coming down to the planet's surface, to the city. The citizens thought they were the angels, the grey armored, the word bearers, or the bearers of the word. Might as well do a little celebration of their return, they thought. But little did they know, it was actually the blue armored, the 13th, the Ultramarines, or as the citizens of Monarchia would call them, as false angels. And they aren't here just for a visit. They came more than that. The Ultramarines would tell the citizens on each city on the planet Kur, especially Monarchia, with their loudspeakers and saying, as I quote,
"People of Monarchia, capital city of the 47th tenth, hear these words. We, the warriors of the 13th, are owed to this moment, honor sword to this duty. We come to the Emperor's decree to the 10th world brought to compliance by the 47th expedition of humanity's Great Crusade."
There was a pause, and then he continued.
"Your compliance with the Imperium of Man has held for 61 years. With the greatest regret, the Emperor of Mankind demands that all living should abandon the city of Monarchia immediately. Moments ago, your planetary leaders were giving the same warning. This city is to be evacuated within 6 days. On the final day, your planetary leaders will be allowed to send a single distress call."
The citizens looked at each other out of confusion and disbelief. There was a sense of adrift in their attention. One Astartes aimed his bolter to the air, and with a single shot, it thundered in silence. Then it continued.
"No one is to remain in Monarchia by dawn on the 7th day. Go now to your homes, gather your belongings, evacuate the city. Resistance will be met in bloodshed."
It repeated one last time.
"No one is to remain in Monarchia by dawn on the 7th
And then,
day.
lots of cries, jeers, and panic spread to the citizens. Some ran, gathered what they could, and flee as they were being told, and some demanded in front of the Astartes of what was going on. The citizens did not understand why the Emperor himself would allow his false angels to do this on their planet. How would they leave home when it's the only place they know for their whole life? What was it they did so wrong to deserve such punishment, and why? We will have to see on the final day. The leaders of the planet will send the only first and last distress call. And then on the final day, it will be revealed. The word bearers at this time will be continuing their usual conquest for the Great Crusade until they received the distress call, and it was from Kur, calling the Legion to come back to the world, thinking they were being attacked by the 13th, the Ultramarines. Lord Aurelian and his legion would rush and come back to the world as their cities on Kur were being decimated, thinking Reboot Gilliman crazy or out of his mind to destroy such cities as Monarchia and many other cities that were on the planet Kur. The word bearers and Lord Aurelian will find out the truth of all this, and when Lorga was about to give his speech to his legion, he was cut off by Reboot Gilliman and telling the legion to come down to the planet's surface immediately. 150,000 Astartes landed with Lorga on the destroyed city, Monarchia. What they saw it sank their hearts. Just to see everything that was built was gone to ashes. Nothing else existed anymore. No life, no standing building. All it was a crushed rumble now. Monarchia, there was once a beautiful city to behold, a tribute to the god emperor, was now a shadow of its former glory. On the assembly, there was Makodor the Sigillite, Rubuk Gilliman, and some of the custodians stood in before Lodgar and the city ruins. This whole situation that happened enraged Lodgar so much, he will ignore Makodor's hearings and backhanded him. Surprisingly, Makodor was able to stand up with some cracked bones on his body. For Makodor, it seemed Lodgar wouldn't listen to anyone else other than the Emperor himself. So thus, the Emperor was called upon and came down to Monarchia himself with his custodians. With the brightest light shone upon the Legion that not even one word-bearer was able to see him. The Emperor made the whole Legion kneel to him with his psychic might and saying just a couple of words. Kneel to me. As the word-bearers kneeled by force from the Emperor's psychic might, Lodgar tried to reason with him and convinced the Emperor that he was a god. Lodgar just wanted the Emperor to confess, to tell the truth that he was such a divine being. But all it was for nothing. The Emperor looked at Lodgar in disappointment, in disgust, and shamed the Primarch and his Legion by telling them he was no god, he was just a man. It wasn't his Imperium, he was the Imperium of man. The Primarchs he created were meant to be generals to conquer the galaxy, not priests giving false beliefs and superstition. And the Emperor will let them know that all the Legion's efforts that were made to the Great Crusade were for nothing. And they have failed him. As he gave that final sentence, he turned his back on Lodgar and left back to his ship. This struck Lodgar to the core. He had fallen and was lost. He had no faith to follow for his purpose, but the most important of them all was the truth that Lodgar wanted so badly. The truth was denied to him in person, and they humiliated him and his Legion on the destroyed city. Lodgar will fall to his knees in despair. He will look up into the sky and shout on the dusty ashes of Monarchia. The Legion of the 17th, the Word-Bearers. After being punished on Monarchia and taught a lesson to the Legion in order to give them a new rebirth from the view of the Emperor himself, the Emperor also wanted to make sure the Legion gets back on track of conquest in the galaxy, improper. So, he gave some of his custodians in order to be his ears and eyes upon the Word-Bearers. Lodgar was hidden from the Legion for a while, and from the eyes and ears of the custodians. He was making his new book called the Book of Lodgar, but he was also discussing with his mentors, Corferon and Erebus. They were discussing about looking into the old faith and bringing it back, which was suggested by Corferon and agreed from Erebus. With this thought in mind, Lodgar denied of this at the start. The reason behind it was because on his homeworld, Cultures, Lodgar fought to get rid of the old faith for 6 years, causing millions upon millions of blood being spilled and tons of deaths were being made on the world. Without faith for the Legion, or maybe more than that, without faith for humanity, it would have no purpose. And deny faith will make them crave more for it. To look at faith to the divine being such as the Emperor is long gone. And which faith to go other than the old faith? His mentors told Lodgar they were wrong themselves to bring faith upon the Emperor to show loyalty and worship, which in return, he, beloved by all, brought destruction upon the Legion. With every passing second, his mentors will speak to Lodgar with words that are like poison, dripping into his ears of drop by drop. The old faith, they said, it is the way, and it is the only way to bring enlightenment for humanity, because it is the truth. Still, Lorgar resisted the notion of this false belief, where they will find nothing but myths and legends where they don't exist. It doesn't have the truth behind it. For Lorgar, mankind needs faith, of course, but faith needs to be true. Sure, his faith is broken, but his belief is not. Corferin suggested to Lorgar that they will meet to a certain place, a place where gods and mortals would meet to prove the truth of it. Reluctantly, Lorgar agreed to this, and to go where mortals and gods would meet. And if proven true, then this will be Lorgar's new faith, a new purpose for his service. But first, the one person who knows such things will be Magnus the Red, the Primarch of the Thousand Suns, who knows the warp than anyone else. They will meet at the home planet of the Wordbearers, Cultures. Which that plan didn't work out since Magnus rejected Lorgar's desperate proposal, and also, Lorgar broke more shit after Magnus left. Of course, hope was not lost for the Wordbearers, so they had another idea. Since Magnus wasn't going to help Lorgar for his search for mortals and gods meet, then he will have to do it himself. They went to a planet called Cadia. Yeah, that planet. You know, the one that we have currently where they can't even fucking stand on the planet. But then again, they got destroyed twice in total, so I'm pretty much happy about it even more.
Hey bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!
Overall, they will meet on Cadia from a barbaric tribe where they have practiced the old faith for centuries. Perhaps longer. They expected the Wordbearers and the Primarch to arrive to the planet, and they are one of the planets who know where mortals and gods would meet. And through that process will be from sacrifice. A 10th sacrifice, and that will be from one of the custodians that was with the Wordbearers down to the planet with them. Let's just say the custodian had a good time. Positive thoughts, people. Positive thoughts. They were playing volleyball, so don't you worry. It was a great time down there. With that sacrifice made, there would be a demon spawn upon Cadia called Ingathel. Ingathel was showed to Lorgar and to the Wordbearers the truth of the old faith. And with that old faith is chaos. It showed the primordial truth where the Emperor was hiding from the Imperium for so long. It showed the fall of the Elder who denied the primordial truth from their ignorance. And the rest of the lies that was said through the Imperium. This, Lorgar thought, is the truth he wanted, and now he has a purpose and a reason. A reason to follow, but also a reason to go against the Emperor's lies beset upon the Imperium. Even before the Wordbearers would do anything, they started to scrap some Astartes from the Legion ranks who didn't agree to their methods. And now they will change their armor to red instead of grey. Once that was complete, they will start in secret because remember, they are still under the watchful eye of the custodians. They would learn about chaos worship, sorcery, the use of the warp of different entities, of demons, and then a good example of it is the Gar Vorbak. To simply explain what the Gar Vorbak is, it is a combination of two souls into a one host body, one demon and one Astartes. Once the demon wants to unleash its fury upon its enemies and is allowed from the main host to do so, it will transform the normal Astartes into an upgraded Astartes of the Gar Vorbak. The devastation they bring upon the enemy is traumatizing, and it can wreak havoc by spilling blood and tear enemies into pieces with nothing else to spare other than the pool of blood and the gore of chunks of meat left behind. Once the battle is over, the demon will go to a sleep state, and the Gar Vorbak will go back to normal as the usual Astartes. While that was happening, Lorgar would send some of his chaplains to be on other legions in order to, quote-unquote, learn and understand the Legion's ways. But in reality, it is to poison the Primarchs or some of the Astartes to join their cause in secret, and to introduce the Warriors Lodge. If you are interested, I've done a video about the Warriors Lodge, and it will be on the top right corner of the video, or it will be in the description. To put a note here, I know some of the Primarchs will learn about Chaos eventually, but keep in mind that some of the Astartes in their Legion ranks wasn't so sure of what Chaos exactly is. They know they will rebel against the Emperor by following what the Primarch does, but they don't quite know the consequence they will deal with in the situation they're in. But I just want to keep a note of that, to be sure. All the process of convincing, manipulating, and to set the seeds for the heresy and the powder in the barrel has exploded. And now we go forward where Horus turns against the Emperor after the destruction of Isstvan III to Isstvan V. For the sake of this video, if you want to learn what happened on the Battle of Isstvan V, you can go to this video where I go in detail about the battle and speak about the Shattered Legion. It will be on the top right corner or under the description as well. But to put it simply for this video, the Wordbearers who were part of the 4 Legion reinforcements to Isstvan V, for the Loyalists, once they set upon the Isstvan V, they turned against them, they started to butcher the entire Loyalist legions upon the planet, and became victorious. Wait, hold on Nelop. What happened to the custodians who were keeping an eye and ears on the Wordbearers this whole time? Oh yeah, those guys. Well, when they found out about the treachery of the Wordbearers, they would kill any traitor they will go against, and they will go to the planet's surface of Isstvan V in order to set up a last defense. The Wordbearers of the Gar Vorbak found out where they were, so they went to the surface too. They would surround the custodians, and one by one they would go down without a ferocious fight like a lion. But eventually for the custodians, they were outnumbered against the Gar Vorbak, and they would fall and die. And also being chopped to pieces, let's not forget about that. Everything is set to motion. The civil war of brother against brother. Legion against legion. Which some of the Astartes in the end of the Great Crusade were too ignorant to see this as a possibility. And now, it has become a reality. The Wordbearers got what they wished for as a starting point. The real wish would be on the planet Calth, one of the 500 worlds of the Ultramarines, and probably much more. And then, at the Emperor's Palace on Terra. This is much more than a civil war. This is heresy. Heresy made by Horus, as it would be called for many millennia to come. The Horus Heresy. It is indeed a sad story for some, a legion so loyal and brought the Delectitio Divinitatis by their Primarch, which gave away in an imperium of religious zealots during the 42nd millennium. But some see it as a deserved punishment upon the blind legion who were going against the imperial truth. Some say if Monarchia didn't happen, then the Horus Heresy wouldn't happen. But this is quite difficult to say. When it comes to the Emperor, who had a strong ideal against religion, the Emperor would go and punish those who were going against his ideals, and Monarchia was no exception. After the Emperor's leave to Terra, Horus had a lot of pressure as War Master, and an event that happened with the Lost Legions makes it even more roughly evident that somewhere and somehow, someone had to blow up in rebellion. But I think Horus was one of the most affected so far. It could be Horus, but it could be someone else. But it all depends how you would fit the puzzles, because in the end, all it needs for Chaos is someone to go weak in desperation, and Chaos would take the chance to turn them into their side against the Emperor. For Monarchia, it'll be always the symbol for the Wordbearers, the start of them seeing the truth of the galaxy, the truth of Chaos, and the lies of the false Emperor. They know well about the current state of the Imperium, of how hypocritical they would use the same faith of the Emperor as the Wordbearers used back in the Great Crusade. Now to wrap this up, the conclusion of this video is an introduction of the Wordbearers, and to show about Monarchia and the events that happened before the Horus Heresy, the setup of the heresy, the training of chaos sorcery, the use of demons, and the manipulation upon Astartes and Primarchs. This all took time to set up the moment to strike with subtlety and the correct times to get it done. Remember though, this legion, even at its present time, is skilled at oratory. They can use the Imperium's faith into their own weapon. They are the ones who created it. They are the ones who can manipulate if the Imperial's servant spirits are broken enough to be submissive into their will. They are the ones who would turn the world against the Lords without using any force or any weapon of kind. They are the bearers of the word.
The song. You shouldn't be here, and yet here I am. All I want is an answer.
The gods bow to me, and all will kneel.
The gods will abandon you. A ripple in the ocean of chaos. You have nothing to threaten me with.